out this afternoon. We really want to treat this as an open discussion because we are really excited to be having our first Environmental Intelligence Forum with our new IARPC plan. I'm sure you're all familiar with the fact that we released a new 5-year IARPC plan back in January, and part of the new plan had this environmental intelligence collaboration team, which we hoped would create some synergies not only between our modeling and observing and data integration teams, but also for the other teams that we have within IARPC. So we've already had some great progress through the first half of this year with our 3 sub-teams, which again are observing, data, and modeling, but now we hope to branch that out even more. And so as we got together back earlier in the year in Anchorage at our first IARPC kickoff meeting for the new plan, we started looking at tasks that the Environmental Intelligence Committee could take on that could really move the ball forward and provide a framework to make some progress in some big multidisciplinary cross-cutting areas. And one of the first things we identified was to look and see how we could support the refinement of the carbon budget for the Arctic. So we agreed coming out of that meeting in Anchorage that we would take that on as our first big environmental intelligence project. And so we've made a number of progressive steps over the past few months, getting our 3 sub-teams aligned with taking on the carbon project as one of their milestones for not just this year, but going forward over the next few years. And so we've made some great progress on that. And you'll hear the updates from the sub-teams in just a few minutes. But as we go forward, we want to keep refining that and keep actively engaging not only our sub-teams, but the members of the other collaboration teams, particularly things like terrestrial carbon budgets and sea ice and our atmospheric teams, the folks that are really have strong research performance elements in their sections of the IARPC plan that are relevant to carbon and carbon cycles. So that's what our focus is going to be on largely for this meeting today, and what the environmental intelligence team will be taking on over the next few months and years. So I'll stop there and ask my co-chair, Anjali, if she has anything else to add to that.
I think you covered most of these, crucial points here. I would just add that just like sea ice prediction is such an important activity, and it's a culmination of all our understanding and methodologies and approach. So the carbon is a little bit long range in terms of we're not expecting in the next 6 months to do all the things we want to do, but it's an aspirational goal, and so it's long range. In that context, we also have the AGU special session. Maybe Emily will mention it when she speaks next, but we thought we'd take something that we could benefit by having a communication between the activities amongst various agencies through the IARPC forum.
All right, thank you very much. So to add a little bit more refinement to this, Emily Osborne is going to walk us through a brief overview of how we plan to implement this part of the carbon system into the Environmental Intelligence Plan.
Okay. So just to give everybody a little bit of background, because I hope that in addition to IARPC members, we have some people from outside of our network that we're going to engage and hopefully bring in to the IARPC collaboration teams. So at the beginning of this year, we rolled out a new 5-year plan, and we have different teams that are part of that plan. And the team, of course, that we're talking mostly about today is environmental intelligence. And prior to this 5-year plan, there were 3 teams modeling Arctic observing systems and Arctic data that stood on their own. And this year, we're pulling those 3 teams together to be the environmental intelligence team. And so today we're talking about our first big effort, which is focusing on Arctic carbon. And we talked about what our different focuses should be throughout the year. And carbon came out as something that we felt like across a lot of the other collaboration teams and performance elements. And so there are 122 performance elements that are across all of these teams that you see on the screen. So what I did was made a word cloud of all of the performance elements, and I thought it was fitting that models, observation, and data all popped out as really important words that were across all those 122 performance elements. And so then pulled together this environmental intelligence cycle. And this cycle is something that's changed and will continue to change as we work more with environmental intelligence. Luckily, we have Dr. Paul Berkman on the phone who's going to talk about his science decision-making process, which has also influenced the cycle most recently. So essentially, what Vision, the environmental intelligence team, doing is we're identifying issues, Arctic-related issues that are needed for decision support. So identifying scientific questions that are related to IARPC performance elements that we, the observers, the data managers, and come together and work on. And so that
somebody is not on mute.
So if everyone can go on mute, we're getting a little bit of feedback. We have a lot of people on the call. So then after we identify our decision support questions, which in this case are carbon-related issues, which is anything from the increased frequency of wildfire events, ocean acidification, permafrost melts, and carbon emissions. So we have a lot of different subsets of issues that we can key into with this carbon issue. Then what the first step is we go into the data archives and we find what data relates to our scientific questions. And in doing so, we're translating objective data into functional evidence. And then from there, we can do a gap analysis and identify the different strategic places that we can increase our observations in order to get at those questions that we've identified in step 1 for decision support. And then from there, we pull together our new observations and our evidence or data into systems level models where we can address those questions. And then of course, we need to come back and determine, are we assessing or are we being responsive to our stakeholder needs? And then ultimately we provide options for actions to our decision makers. And then this is an iterative process where we're going to go through this cycle repeatedly with different questions, even probably with the carbon cycle several times in order to get at these different subsets of issues. And so my slides aren't, okay. So then this is just another figure that breaks down all of the performance elements, which are numbers here. So there's 3-digit numbers, 1 point, whatever. And so I pulled out the performance elements that related to any of the carbon subset questions for each of our IARPC collaboration teams. So as you see over here. And these are different performance elements that we can collaborate with these other IARPC teams. So really it's a cross IARPC effort for us to answer these questions and to be successful in delivering ultimately these decision options. And last but not least, for those that are visual learners, here is a figure I pulled together of some of just the general observations and the processes related to the Arctic carbon budget, and I've mapped across all of the performance elements that you saw on the last slide relative to the process that they fit into in the Arctic carbon budget.